Good evening. It's July 16th on the Alan Osborne Show. And I know a lot of you are expecting me to come out with a county issue tonight, but I'm not going to. Uh, I've been quiet the last few days, and between the president getting shot and some personal issues in my life, I had somebody get killed recently I was very close to unexpectedly. And when no matter what your life's like, when you lose somebody like that, you got to just kind of stop what you're doing. But anyway, before I get back into local stuff tonight, I'm gonna do a little tribute show, and this may not be what you want to watch tonight, but it's a site. The things I'm going to play for you, I gave the guy, a friend of mine, I gave him part of his eulogy, and it was before the president had been shot. But I think it's relevant because look where this country's going. A lot of people don't like me. I really don't care. But I'm not going to be somebody who stands by and does nothing and says nothing. We've just come too hard in this country and come by too much to see how bad it's gone in the last 10 or 15 years. Every time we seem like we turn the machine around, but I feel like the democracy, our country, our safety of our country, the things that make our country sovereign are at risk. Our border, the weakness that we're projecting throughout the world is absolutely ridiculous from the machine that has been known as America for over 200 years. That's just not what we are. We're not weak. And we've let people make government personal, like it's part of their family, for Christ's sakes. That's why we left Europe originally to this country and came over here and stole it from the Indians because we wanted a place that was fair. How ironic is that? Anyway, America is not fair. It's a capitalistic country. And so we seek to have completely fair government as possible because there's got to be a mean in life, and the mean must be government because paying taxes is not an option. And those who don't participate in government will be ruled by those who do. I mean, we do know that, right? So, prayers for the president. I don't wish anybody to shoot Joe Biden. I don't wish, because who wants your leaders killed? Chaos ensues after that. The great democracy is inside the voting booth. Nobody knows who you select. And with that, as hard as I am, there's some thoughts I'm going to share with you in this eulogy that I think are relevant to all of us as we set our priorities of what is important in our lives. We all get 24 hours. And if you're like me, that means you got 24 hours to be an American. And being an American is about trying to protect and follow the Constitution as it was laid before us by our forefathers for the last 250 years, really. And so I think it's just disrespectful if we don't protect the greatness that is America, the freedom that is America. And why do you think for the last 200 years everybody in the world has been wanting to be an American? That's right, because it's the best. And anytime you get complacent that you're sitting on top, you could get knocked out like Mike Tyson did the first time. Nobody expected it. And I don't want to wait to that point. And we damn near had ensuing chaos had that bullet just been a little bit farther the other way, a little less wind, or his head turned just a little bit more. And today it would not be like it is. So prayers for all of that. And thinking about trying to have the best in people and respect this democracy at the voting booths for the next all the way through November. And with that, I want to talk about that. Talk about what it means to be a human, because I learned that from other people and other leaders. And these are my thoughts on what that is. So a tribute to my friend, Thomas Wormy, Gregory Clark. You'll be missed, brother. Without ado, I hope he doesn't mind that I share these words with you. Hello, I'm Alan Osborne, and I'm sure not the Reverend today, but I'm here to make you smile, and I want to tell you about Greg's life. For me, Greg was an integral part of my life.
those of you that don't know me, when I left this town, I spent about 35 years in the Department of Defense. I want you to know I worked with some of the most intelligent and people who were of bearing on the Constitution and the most forthright people that you would ever meet in your life. And despite their education and their status in the world, I will tell you, as human beings, most of them paled in comparison to how Greg Clark was as a human. And that's rare in today's world, because we forgot how to be humans, and we have forgotten what's important in life. And I will tell you this before I tell you some funny stories, because anybody that knows me knows, like Greg's pastor, I rode Greg's hind end because I loved him. He was my brother, and that's the first thing I want to talk about in Greg's life. As in today's world, if you see in the news, DNA seems to matter on everything. We see it in there. It's part of every crime scene, and we all talk about, that's mine, that's this is my DNA. I would tell you that DNA does not matter. It's just a way of measuring what people have inside them. Because in Greg's world, DNA did not matter. In fact, many of you who are Greg's family have no DNA with him. And that makes you no less his family. I share no DNA with Greg, but he is my brother because I accept him as my brother. Where he went to church, what color he is, what he believed different from me makes him no different from me. He is a human being. And one of the greatest I have ever known. In my life, I've had a lot of chaos. I spent many years at war putting young men and young women into silver boxes in the name of politicians' thoughts. They were empty compared to a man like this. Greg was born one DNA and adopted another DNA, for he was a Minton and a Clark too. That was his family. Some of you were his family, and though he had no Osborne in him, I promise you he was my brother. That is special, and I will tell you, to his family, when Amanda came into his life, and when Justin came into his life, you were his DNA, and you are. Because he accepted you into his family, and it was forever. That's what you were. It would never have mattered to Greg what your DNA was, because you were his family by choice. Friends are family you choose. You cannot pick your kin. You can pick a seat at the movies. You can pick out a car. But you don't pick where your destiny takes you in life when you were born. And so you must make choices of those who are important in your life. And for me, when I met Greg was at a time before I had real friends, because most of us are just children and we go to first grade and kindergarten and we meet our first friends. Greg came before that. He became before Terry, Jeff, Greg, Jim, all the people I knew. I see out in there just the people I see, because my father chose Greg's father as his bailiff because he was a Marine. And my father had been trained by Marines, and he learned to pay attention to Marines. He was important by choice, and I distinctly remember at the age of 5 pulling up in a yellow Datsun pickup to the Clark home and piling out on that, and there was Greg with his Z50. Now, in children's ages, 3 years is a lot. It's a whole lot. When somebody's 3 years older than you when you're 5, you're not in their group, okay? At that point in our life, we're still, hey, who's that? You know, who's this? Greg's commitment and consistency was, even at a young age, that he was inclusive of everybody. Here I was, a snot-nosed 5-year-old with no mini bike, showing up at his house, and he was 8. But there he strapped me on the back of this Z50 made for one people. And without helmets and stuff, we rode like terrors around the yard until Tom screamed, "That's enough." And then I didn't want to go home. And of course, in the Clark family, you were family. He said, "Go ahead, leave him, Sam. He can stay here and we'll feed him." If he acts up, I'll whoop him. And that's what you need in life, because you need to be treated like family to be included. And that's why DNA doesn't matter. Greg chose all of you, and as the Reverend said, but the fruit he bears is not gone. For you are his fruit. He chose you, and most of you, he influenced you in some way enough that you are here today just like me. So even if the vine has been severed and Greg has gone on, you are, and the people that are influenced by a man who treats you that way, you're still sharing his fruit, because I am. Greg is not gone with me. In fact, I talked to him the other day up on the mountain. And so that's when I met Greg, at the age of 5. And he stayed a pillar of consistency and character in my life. Character and consistency are not defined by wealth. They're not defined by achievements. They're defined by your actions as a person. And his actions were wholesome. His actions were funny. His actions were brotherly. If Greg told you he loved you, he wasn't ashamed of it, and he freaking meant it. It wasn't said as a passing thing. If he said you were loved in his life, he meant it. And Greg was the pillar of forgiveness. If you had never seen, you tell Greg about something that just sounded all jacked up, and he'd say, well, and he'd want to turn the other cheek immediately. Oh, Greg, look at those people up there making this. Well, maybe they had something wrong in their life. That guy didn't pay his bills. Well, maybe he's trying. Now, see, I'm not that person. I'm hard. I'm like, they're sorry. Greg would say, no, they're great. And give them a chance. You will rarely meet somebody with a consistency of character, especially in today's world. Greg went to a job for 40 years. Now, I went to a job for 35 years and can't imagine doing the other 5. When Greg left work, he left work kicking and screaming because he did not want to abandon those people that he had worked with, for they had become his family too. He believed they needed them because they did. He was not replaceable. Greg was a fisherman. From the first time I met him at the spillway out here, I'd run down the hill, and maybe him and Kenneth, Terry, and other people would be down there fishing. He loved to fish, and it led him to his first job. What you should know about Greg, to many of us, Greg is wormy. And it is isn't that an awful name? Wormy? Does anybody want some food that's wormy? Do you want some peaches that are wormy? But I want wormy in my life. And I was glad to have it. At the age of 14, he went to work for John Johnson. And they sold night crawlers. And, you know, young men have issues in their life where they want to say a lot of things and talk a lot of things that they don't know about. And one day, Wayne Blankenship and Big John, big name Greg Wormy. And it stuck. And of course, with Greg, there was nothing bad about anything. He thought it was a great name. He embraced it, like anything that come to his life. And so he became Wormy, and I am proud to be up here talking about Wormy, because he was my friend. He was thrifty, he was tight, he was funny. On the last day that he was conscious on this earth, I bought him lunch, and he grinned ear to ear, because I said, order what you want, because I'm paid. And he said, well, all right. We'll eat big. He was an excellent fisherman, and I was glad to take him. He loved to fish with Clay. He loved to fish with anybody from the time, and there would probably be a picture of him somewhere with a fish. Donna probably has more of those than he has holding a child. But that's okay. That's who he was. He loved to ride motorcycles. As you cry for him in his accident, like I do, and I was there, know that Greg had a wonderful week. And how many people who suffer a death in this life, because death comes to all of us. We're just made in God's image. We're not God and not supposed to be and not meant to live forever. But he was happy in his life. He was content. And I will tell you that in the portfolio of life, the most valuable thing in your portfolio is your time. And Greg freely gave of his time. For no matter how rich or how poor a man becomes in his life, he simply gets 24 hours in the day. We all get 24 hours in the day, and we all choose how we use those 24 hours. Greg always chose the good side of his 24 hours. And he made the most of it and was content. In fact, the day he left, the last time I had a conversation with Greg, probably about 10 minutes before his accident, I said, "It was a good day, Wormy." He said, "It was." He said, "I had a good day." And he said, "I'll see you later, brother." And I believe that because this is just his shell. The person I love is still there. And I still love him today. And I'm going to miss him because I call him 2 or 3 times a week. He was a man of God. He was humble and repentant because all of us are sinners. And we all make mistakes. And I'm the lead guy. I'm in trouble. It's me. Greg was immediately repentant without somebody telling him to have to be. You didn't have to tell Greg if you thought he was worried to death he had done something wrong. And if I had $1 million in a briefcase and I was running out of a building in trouble and I had to hand it to somebody and say, "Hold this and hide it," it would be Greg Clark I handed it. Because that's the kind of trust that you had in him. You trusted him with your life. You trusted him with your feelings. You could trust him with your money. You could trust him with anything that you wanted to hand him. And in today's world where we can't even get people consistent enough to agree what bathroom they go to, he was consistent about everything, especially in his love of who he loved and his love of God and his family. I will tell you that humans are more important than hardware, and hardware includes money, homes, cars, and things. When I bought some land up on the mountain, Greg was worried about what I spent on it. And I said, "I cannot put a price on this land where I want us all to enjoy it together in our fellowship, because my time with him was much more important than any other things." When you run out of time, and all of us, you may be conscious when you find yourself on death's bed. I promise you, no matter what your bank account says, you won't be able to go to somebody and buy some more time. Donald Trump, billionaire Warren Buffett, the one thing that they can't purchase is time. So when you give somebody your time, you give somebody your effort, you're giving them the most valuable thing in your portfolio, including your love. Because if you don't love somebody, you're definitely not likely to give them your time, because it should be precious to you. My time with Greg is irreplaceable. My memories are irreplaceable. He is irreplaceable, but he is not gone. He is with the Lord, and I promise you I will feel the fruit of Greg Clark for the rest of my life that the Lord allows me to have. As I said, in life, and some of you out there may be millionaires, and some of you might have barely made your power bill this month. You are no less valuable in the world of the Lord and your time that you give to me. It is the most valuable thing. Greg says, "Well, hey, mister, I will miss somebody calling me on the phone going, 'What are you doing, mister?' Oh, not much." My time, Greg loved his time with Timmy and Clay and Tommy and Steve and Ricky and Big John and Wayne Blankenship and Jay and Ronnie and the other Timmys. Everybody in the Berry Mountain gang and the Germantown Road gang as kids. We all rode around like hoodlums with gasoline and 2-stroke oil, making a racket as we went everywhere. And let me tell you, that was a good a life as a child could have. I have seen a lot of the world, and I have seen many big bad people and places that I would not want to call home. Everywhere Greg was home. The Clark residence, is it 221 Germantown Road? 221 Germantown Road is a home. It's the home of the Clarks and the Mendons. You can't make a home just simply by buying property. You just can't make one of those. And so I will tell you the grand trips that we had. Greg loved his family, and he loved you, Mo, especially. We all got to help raise Mo, me and Tommy and Clay and everybody, and we all had a big time. And it was good. Life was good. And I want you to remember that Greg remembered all those things, and we talked about them a lot lately. He loved Eric. He had great relishment when he started taking care of Mr. Potts. He loved to tell Mr. Potts that I was the one who used to run from the law and wouldn't stop from it. He would just cackle. He'd say, Mr. Potts, you recognize him? Or what if I put a yellow helmet on him and a loud motorcycle? He said, that's him. He said, that's Sam's boy. He doesn't stop when you turn on the light. So, I want to share those with you today because many of you know these things about Greg. And as you are sad about them, relish in the fact that he's correct. Greg didn't have anything bad to say about anybody. As I said, he did not judge people based on what they were. He judged them based on how they acted and how they treated him. And wouldn't it be different if the whole world did that? Wouldn't today's world that's gone ugly be so much better if it was taken back to simple things like that? Because a simple life is valuable. Your relationship with the people that you love will bring you more satisfaction. And if you die and have money in the bank, you had enough. You don't need a fortune to be rich in life. And this man was rich. And what he shared with all of us was his fellowship, his love, and the love of all of you. If you're out there today, I know you have a funny story about Greg, and I'm not going to go into them, but when you see those pictures of me and Tommy and Glenn and Jeff and Clay and Mo, and there's a lot more that aren't out there because we don't plan for death. We just have a knee-jerk reaction and try to pull it off. The most important thing to Greg was to him, as he told me, was, he said, I want you to know, brother, I love you. He said, I worried about you when I was in a war. You know, and I never worried about myself. Because God comes to take us in his own time. And that's the last thing I'm going to tell you. Don't live your life in fear. You have a finite number of days. Don't be scared because Greg got hurt in an accident. Don't stop doing what you do. You don't stop riding in cars because you see an accident. We all have a time, and it's God's destiny that we don't know when that is, and that's a good thing, isn't it? We're not supposed to. We're made in his image. We're not made to be him. We don't need to know everything. But you need to know that Greg loves you. And you should love each other. And if I could tell you one thing that Greg would want from you, it was to continue doing what you loved and live your life as a good person. Greg did not have any demons, as I call it, in his head. He was right with all of them. And I'm sure there's words, I just quit talking about what I wrote on the paper. But I hope that you will carry Greg's love with you of what's important. Again, I'll close those out. Time is your most valuable asset in your portfolio. Those you love and those who love you are the most important assets in your life. Don't stop living your life. Live your life without regrets. If you have transgressions against somebody, tell them you're sorry like Greg and move on. And most of all, love somebody the way Greg loved all of you. So to my brother, today he'd be complaining about how much these flowers cost and that casket's too fancy. And that I spent too much on the bike that I wanted him to ride. And I don't regret any of it. And I don't regret, and I cherish the time that I spent with Thomas Gregory Clark. And I hope you did too. I love you, brother. Thank you very much.
Whew. Wasn't that a whole lot of craziness out of my mouth? It's probably not what you expected on the show tonight, but I needed to hear it again. And it reminds me why I'm out there, for people like that have given me consistency and been beacons in my life to do the right thing. And that's why I do what I do. So I hope this edition, a tribute to somebody who was consistent in my life, and a pause to think about what almost happened to President Trump and how we need to get control of this country. And the only thing we have to do is fail is for more of us to stand by and say nothing about what we know is wrong that we can affect. You can't expect to fix politicians in D.C. unless you clean up your own backyard. And folks, that's what we've got to do this year. We've got to make changes, and we've got to find consistency of character in the people we put in office. Till next time, this crazy talk edition of the Alan Osborne Show is dedicated to you, Wormy, a pillar of consistency for 50 years in my life. Thank you very much. Until next time, y'all keep them straight, because they can't keep themselves straight. You can't make this shit up. I'm Alan Osborne.